Research Foundation of India, and our distinguished subject expert, Dr. Chanchla Jain, ma'am. As we all know that today it is marked day 4 of our FDP, and the topic of our FDP is on step-by-step guide to write a good research paper. And the topic for today's session is application of Excel for data analysis and quantitative data analysis. And for this, highly esteemed Dr. Chanchla Jan ma'am is here with us. But before we head towards the session, let's have a look on our experts' achievement journey. A very good evening, ma'am. Dr. Chanchla Jan ma'am is an author, research expert, and academician with an experience of more than 11 years in management and commerce as an assistant professor. Ma'am is a co-founder of Future Counseling and Training Indore. Presently, Ma'am is working as an assistant professor in Prestige Institute of Management and Research Indore. Ma'am is also the research expert and trainer. Ma'am is also the coordinator of IQSC at PIMR and a research expert and trainer. Ma'am has conducted many workshops, FDPs on SPSS module, research paper writing and analysis through our programming. And recently, Ma'am has completed one more research project related to medical field, which has been presented before the Central Ministry. And Ma'am is having a rich experience of more than 10 years in research, and with this, she has more than 42 research papers published in various scopus, national and international journals, and also Ma'am has presented research papers in more than 20 plus conferences and won 5 Best Papers Awards at JIMS, Delhi Pacific University, Udaipur, and 3 in Prestige, Indore. 4 research scholars were also pursuing their PhD degree under her able guidance. Ma'am has also guided more than 500 students in their major and minor research projects. And if we talk about as an author, Ma'am has also written a book on a crucial problem of our society, along with a co-author titled as Atmatya Q. So with this, without any more further delay, I feel myself very honored to invite highly esteemed Dr. Dr. Chanchla Jan ma'am on our RFI's platform. So ma'am, please hold the put press. Now the platform is yours.
Thank you so much, Nikita ma'am. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're completely audible.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for the introduction. I think it's day 4, as Nikita ma'am said, and today is the day of the understanding the concept of data analysis, and there are various platforms. Today we need to discuss how Excel can help us in the data analysis part, right? So before starting this session, firstly, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the RFI family, especially the Ajay Jain sir, Saurabh Jain sir, and the entire team for giving me one more chance to interact with the participants, those who have joined across the India. So thank you, the RFI team. Thank you, Nikita ma'am, once again. Now, talking about session or the topic of the day, which is the data analysis. So before proceeding and telling you that how Excel can help us in the data analysis, may I know this thing, that how many of you are having the idea about variable? I think the hypothesis testing session is already being conducted, and I think now you are knowing what is variable. Yes, anyone? Anyone? I hope you people are listening to me. I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So may I know, do you have any idea about the term variable? Okay, fine. No issues. Give me a second. I'm sharing my screen and we'll talk there about the, first of all, the terminology which we are using in case of data analysis, and then we'll see how Excel can help us. Okay. Okay, I shared my screen. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nikita ma'am. So friends, I think the same sheet I also provided to you people. I hope you are having the same sheet with you. Yes. Please confirm, friends. It's online session. It will be difficult for me to understand whether are you getting me or not.
Yes, ma'am, it's
Have you-
visible.
Okay. Have you received the sheet or not? The Excel sheet?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So before talking about this analysis part, I'll just discuss few concepts. So give me a second. I'm going to insert a sheet here. Fine. I'm increasing its size. Yes. Before understanding the analysis part, we need to understand the term variable. So I think there are many of the people who are attending the session. So maybe due to some other issues, you people are not interacting. So I'll start with the term variable. Variable is what? It is nothing but an entity which varies. So means we can say this thing that the definition of variable is hiding in the term itself. Variable which varies, right? So in a simple language, we can say which varies. Or we can say it is an entity which can accept any value. Or you can say which is not constant is variable. Right? I hope the term clear. I expect you people to please interact.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this way, this is the meaning of variable. When we talk about variable in terms of research, we can say variable is nothing but characteristic. It's a characteristic of any object, right? So I think when we are collecting the data, so for collection of the data, firstly we need to have something in hand through that we can collect the data, and that something is generally known as the questionnaire. I think you people have already attended the session on the questionnaire development. So now you people are knowing that how to develop a questionnaire, and there is a very important role of variable in terms of questionnaire, because if you people have identified clearly the variables of your research study, that way you can easily develop a questionnaire, right? So the questionnaire is based on the variables, right? So as I said, variable is nothing but its characteristics of any object, right? So when we are collecting the data, generally we are collecting the data from the respondents, right? The living being. So if I say that respondent is the object for me, so I need to know the characteristics of that particular respondent. So for example, maybe we can ask about the gender, we can ask about the salary, or maybe the income, or marital status, age, etc., occupation, profession, etc., we can ask. So these are nothing but these are known as the variables. Apart from that also, generally we are conducting the study, and using the questionnaire we are collecting the primary data, right? So there we will be having a particular construct, or we can say construct. For that we are collecting the data. Construct is nothing but it's a latent variable which we cannot directly measure. So for that we are using the various items. Using that we can find or we can measure that construct, right? So this is variable. Now talking about the types. So when we say types, usually there are variety of the classification parameters. Using that we can tell that these are the types of variables. First one is the generally we can say variable is quantitative or qualitative. So variable, generally we can classify variable in the form of qualitative and quantitative. So when we say qualitative or quantitative, so firstly, if I talk about quantitative variable, that means which can be expressed in number form, right, is known as variable. Which can be expressed in number is known as quantitative variable. For example, suppose height, weight, maybe income, salary, etc. can be the quantitative variable. Qualitative variable are the variables which can not be expressed in number form, is known as qualitative variable. For example, gender, right? Marital status, perception, etc. These are the some of the qualitative variables which you cannot measure directly, or you can say which you cannot measure in terms of numbers, right? So known as qualitative variable. So this was the first classification of the variable. The next classification is generally we can say the dependent and independent variable, right? So usually when we need to apply statistical test or tools, so we need to have the clarity about the dependent and independent variables. So when I say dependent variable, so the term or the name itself is explaining dependent variable means which is depending on independent variable, right? Means according to the value of independent variable, the value of dependent variable varies. That's why we can say it's dependent on independent variable. Whereas when we talk about independent variable, we can say which is independent and can accept any value is independent variable. In our school times, we have studied one equation. I think no one can deny from this. Every one of us has studied this equation, which is generally written as y is equals to a plus bx. It is, or other way around, you can say y is a function of x, likewise, right? So that is, we can say here that y is the dependent variable because this equation we have expressed in the form of y. So we can call y is a dependent variable, a and b are the constant terms, and x is the independent variable, right? So the one more classification of the variable can be dependent and independent. Apart from that, there are certain other variables also generally available when we talk about, or generally discussed when we talk about the research, like exogenous. So generally exogenous, endogenous is the other name of the dependent independent variable, right? There is one more term which is the latent variable. Latent variable is nothing but a variable which you cannot directly measure, is known as the latent variable, right? So that way, these are the varieties of variable available when we talk about research. Further, as you can see here, some of the examples which I have quoted here, we can see if I talk about height, weight, income, we easily know, we can easily measure them. Height, we know the apparatus is available. Using that, you can measure the height of a person or of any entity, right? Similarly, weight also can be measured very easily. Income also can be measured in terms of currency. But there are still some of the variables available when we talk about research which cannot be measured using any apparatus, right? Say, for example, if I'm saying perception, usually when we are talking in a normal fashion, we are using term perception or attitude, right? We are generally addressing a person that a person is having a person is having attitude, right? So a person is having a negative or positive perception. So we are usually using these terms, but we don't know how to measure them. There is no what I can say, unit or the apparatus available, using that we can measure them. So in that case, there comes the role of measurement scales, right? So now we'll talk about measurement scales. Till here, I am clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine, thank you. So here I have written, we are using the measurement scales for the measuring of the latent variable, right? Latent variable, I just expressed you, that is a variable which cannot be measured directly because we are not having any apparatus to measure such variable. So in that case, we can take the help of measurement scales, right? So I'll talk about the types of the measurement scales. So I think many of you have already heard this. This is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, right? So these are the four varieties of the measurement scales. So the very first one is the nominal scale. Nominal scale is the scale, or it is a very basic scale in this category because it is a very first scale. So this scale can be used to categorize any object, right? So for the categorization purpose, we are using this scale, right? Say for example, if I'm saying how, or I can say how many of the participants belongs to the academic side or academic field. So that way I can count the peoples. These are the academician, these are the non-academician, or these belong to the non-academic field, right? So there is the way, using that can only categorize your respondent or your object. So we are using the nominal scale. So the example can be, suppose, gender, right? Marital status also we can say here, nationality, etc. Right? So using these things, say for example, if I'm talking about the marital status, how many of the people are married, how many of the people are unmarried? Only suppose I'm keeping these two categories only. So that way I can classify my respondents or the group of people on the basis of their marital status, that how many of them are married and how many of them are not married, right? So this is the first scale known as the nominal scale. Next one is the ordinal scale. This is the second scale which is coming after the nominal scale. Always the order will be same, which I have written here, that is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Reason is because as you are progressing, every scale is having the variety or features of its previous scale, right? So when I talk about ordinal scale, it can categorize also, and also you can rank order. Means whatever categories you are taking, you can rank them, right? Say for example, designation. So I'm taking the example from the academic side. Suppose there are assistant professors, there are associate professors, there are professors, right? So I can categorize them, I can classify them on the basis of their designation. But we know this thing, that there is an order inherent in this classification. We know generally assistant professor will come at a later stage or at a very bottom stage. Then upper to this, the associate professor will come, and at the higher place, the professors will come, right? So that way order is possible. You can arrange your categories in the ascending or descending order. So that way this scale is known as the ordinal scale, right? Next one is the interval scale. So this scale is also having the features or the characteristics of its previous two scales, that is categorization and rank order. Apart from that, there will be the equal distance between the categories. Means whatever the categories you are making, you can arrange them, and also whatever the categories you have made, there will be the equal distance in those categories. For example, temperature. So generally we know there are various like you can measure temperature in the Celsius form, in the Fahrenheit form, in the Kelvin form, etc. Right? So suppose I'm saying, suppose I want to classify the cities on the basis of their temperature, right? So I can say the cities which are having the temperature from suppose 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. Similarly, from 21 to 30. Likewise, so that way I can classify them. So here you can see categorization is possible. Also, whatever the intervals you have created, these intervals can be arranged in the ascending or descending order, and there is an equal distance, right? So that way, that's why we can say this thing, that the interval scale is the having the characteristics of the equal distance. But there is a drawback with the interval scale, and the drawback is what? The drawback is that the scale is not having the actual zero, right? So when I have taken the example of temperature, so when I say there is the 0 degree Celsius temperature, so we know this thing. Characteristics of temperature is what? Generally cooling, the heating type of thing, right? You feel cold or hot. So when I say 0 degree, so 0 means it should, whatever the characteristics you are measuring, it should not present, it should be 0. But at 0 we can feel one of the characteristics of the temperature, which is the cold, right? So that way, whatever you are measuring, that is still present there. So that way we can say the interval scale is lacking the absolute 0, right? So you can write this thing. I don't know how many of you are writing. Missing actual 0. Right? So to overcome this drawback, we are having the next scale, which is known as the ratio scale. So this scale will be having the actual or absolute 0. Means all the previous characteristics this scale will be having, and apart from that, this scale will be having the actual 0, right? So for example, you can say the weight, you can say the height, you can say suppose salary, likewise, right? So this way, these are the 4 important measurement scales which can help us to measure a variable which you cannot measure directly, right? Say for example, if I want to measure perception, so those who are from the management side and generally writing the papers on such kind of variables, so they generally know this thing, that we can prepare the questionnaire, which using that questionnaire, using the items or questions in that questionnaire, we can generally get the or we can generally measure the perception of the people. So we need to frame our questions in the form, so that they can able us to what I can say, capture of the person or the attitude of the person or the behavior, etc. of the people. So this way, these skills can be used for this purpose. I think many of you have heard about the Likert scale, right? Likert scale is generally used when we want to get the opinion about the people, right? Say, for example, if I'm saying I like statistics, so suppose people are saying strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree kind of thing, right? So that way, this scale is generally known as the ordinal scale. So that way, these type of skills can be used to measure the variables which we cannot measure using any apparatus or instrument, right? So I hope till here I'm clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so shall I proceed now for the analysis point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Fine. So now we will talk about the analysis using Excel. So when I say Excel, Excel is nothing but it is a spreadsheet, right? So I think I'm not much focusing on the basic of Excel, because I think many of you are already knowing what is Excel, and I think many of you are also working with the Excel, right? So only thing you need to say here, or I need to say here, is that when I say Excel, Excel is this way. This you can see, this is nothing but this is the Excel format, right? Excel interface, where you can find, this is known as the worksheet. In a worksheet, there can be multiple workbooks, right? Talking about, I'm coming to the first sheet which I have given to you, named as missing value, where you can find Generally, this is nothing but the arrangement of the rows and columns. So when a row and column is intersecting, it is coming as, or it is known as the a small unit, which is a cell in Excel, right? So this way you can see the address of a cell can be read by, here you can see in the name box. This is indicating you the address of this cell is A1. That is, this is belonging to the A column and the first row, right? So this is a very, very simple thing which I have expressed in. Now, further, when we are collecting data, many a time it happens we are having certain points or certain points are not available in the data. Usually nowadays when we are collecting data through the Google form, etc. So generally there is an option available. We can mandate a particular question. So that way it is like every person who is giving the responses to the questionnaire, they need to fill at least a particular option, right? So they need to respond at least. So that way the chances of missing values are generally very less. But when you are collecting the first hand data through the questionnaire through in the offline mode, right, means directly you are meeting and you are circulating your questionnaire and you are asking request people to please fill the questionnaire. In that case, if people are not comfortable with a particular question, if they do not want to respond to the question, they generally skip it, right? And I think we cannot make it mandate that please respond. It is compulsory to respond. We cannot do this thing when we are collecting data in an offline mode, right? But still, you need to know how to clean the data when we talk about the Excel or the data analysis. So cleaning of the data is a very first part. In the cleaning, generally, what you need to do, you need to remove the duplicate values. You need to see how many missing values are available. You need to see whether the data type, the variable type is clearly specified in your data or not. So these are the few things which you need to generally perform at the very first stage, that is the data cleaning stage, right? So here I'll explain you how to diagnose or how to identify missing value in the data. So firstly, you can see I have given you a data in which this is a very small data. I think you can see in that you can find we are having the 12 respondents, right? These 12 respondents are responding or expressing their satisfaction level for the 6 products, whether they have used it or not, you can find here. So for example, I'm just reading the first row for you. You can see here the first respondent is giving very satisfied to the product 1, satisfied to the product 2, very satisfied to the product 3, no response to the product 4, and product 5th is very much means the respondent is very satisfied, and for product 6 it is satisfied only. So here you can see this is a missing value. The cell which is not containing any response is known as missing value for us, right? So here the data set is very small, so I think it is very easy for you to identify the missing values in a particular row or in a column. But what if when the data size is very large, right? So here we are assuming, suppose data size is very large, so how we can use Excel to identify the missing values in the data. So the first step I'm telling you, go down and you can see in the row number 15, 16, 17, I have given you certain terms are written here, non-blank cell, blank cell, that is missing values, and the total, right? So what we'll do, we will count here that how many of the cells are non-blank, means they are having some responses in that, right? So what you need to do, I hope I can start, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So may I know how many of you are using it along with me? Okay, 2-3 people, I think they are saying they are using. That's great. Fine. Good. Just a minute. Yeah. So here we were. I was talking about, firstly, you need to use you need to count here how many of the cells are non-blank. So I need to tell you first thing here, that is Excel is having a very good feature, which is the functions. Using functions, I think we can do a very, very complex task in a very simpler manner. and in very less, what I can say, in in few seconds we can perform the complex tasks using the functions in Excel, right? So there is a thumb rule. If you want to use any function in Excel, you want to execute any function in Excel, you need to use a equal sign, right? So suppose firstly I have kept here a equal. Now I typed here the count because I want to count here. So from the name itself, you can find the function in the Excel. This is count. So you can find in this particular prompt, we can having the count, count a, count blank, count if, and count ifs. Count if and count ifs, we are not talking right now. Firstly, we are talking about the count, count a and count blank. Count blank also, I think we will see later on. Count and count a is very imperative to understand. So suppose I am using the count, you can see it is indicating count the number of cells in a range that contain numbers, right? So if you are having the numbers in a particular range, that way it will return you the count of those numbers. But you can see we are not having the numbers in this range, right? So we'll go down and we'll take the count A. Here you can find counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. Means it is not rigid that it will only count the numbers. It can count the number also. It can count the alphabets also. It can count the dates also, right? So that's why rather than using count, we will use here the count A function. Done? Fine, everyone? And then you need to give the range of your data. So from the cell B2 till cell B3, I have selected the range. And then I am closing the bracket. This is what I did. I hope it is okay. May I press enter?
Yes.
Yes. So it is returning me that 11 cells are non-blank in the range. Now the beauty of Excel is that if you can drag the formula till the last cell, it will copy the same formula with the different range. This is known as relative referencing, right? So the way you can see in this particular cell, in the formula bar, you can find the range was B2 to B13. But in this, the range is C2 to C13. This is known as the relative referencing. Means as the column changed, the range has changed from B to C. It is clear?
Count is used only for the text or is it for number?
Count A.
A.
Count A can be used for number, text, alphabets, dates, for everything.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yes, except the blank.
Yeah. Correct.
Yes. Now we'll come to the next for calculating or counting the blank cells. I think now you are knowing it is a function named as count blank. Right? So again, we need to give the same range. And here we want to count how many of the cells are blank. Is it okay?
Yes.
Fine. So pressing enter, you can see one is coming here, which is indicating this is one value available in our this particular column. I am dragging it to the last cell, and that way we can see the count of blank cells in each of the column. Fine.
Yes.
Fine. Now, I think total, everyone knows it is very easy to calculate. You can use the sum function, and then I have given the range of this. Fine. Fine, everyone. May I press enter?
Yes.
Fine. So now you can drag the same formula till the last cell, and that way you can get the total of the remaining cells also. Done? I hope till here I am clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now we'll proceed and we'll see the next thing. So the missing value worksheet, I think we have discussed. Now you need to go to the next sheet named as category count. Done? Shall I? Yes. May I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So here the question is what? The objective is very clear. We want to count how many of the people are very unsatisfied with product one. Similarly, how many of them are unsatisfied, neutral, satisfied, and very satisfied, right? So for this thing, we are calculating for the product one, and then we will calculate for the remaining products, right? So that way, here now the turn comes for the next function, which is named as count if. So count if means when you are breaking the function count if means generally it is based on conditions, right? Whenever we are talking about if else etc in terms of softwares, generally it is used for the conditions. And I think in the real or in the common term also we know this thing, if means a condition, right? So when I'm saying if or count if meaning is that if this is the situation, count the number, right? That is count if, right? Similarly, count ifs meaning is what? When there are multiple conditions you are using, so that is ifs, but we are using only a single condition, that how many of the people or what are the count of the people of the for the very unsatisfied category, right? So putting here a equal, I'm typing count and I'm selecting count if. Done?
Yes.
Then you can see in the function, it is asking you for giving you the range and the criteria. That means you need to provide the range where you are applying that criteria, right? Is it okay?
Yes.
So you need to select the range like this. I selected the range. Put a comma, because after a range it is putting a comma, and then you need to give the criteria. So suppose I'm selecting the criteria which is very unsatisfied. That means it's very clear that in this range I want to find very unsatisfied, right? Now I'm using the F4 key of my keyboard, and then I'm freezing the condition which is A15, that is very unsatisfied. Is it clear?
Madam, please repeat.
From where, ma'am?
From here, you are selected, no, this very unsatisfied after comma,
Range
after
is
comma.
clear. Range is
Yeah,
clear,
clear.
right? Right. After the range, you need to put a comma, and then you need to give the criteria. Criteria was very unsatisfied, so that cell I selected, very unsatisfied. After
Yes.
that, I have used the F4 key from the keyboard to freeze the condition, that is very unsatisfied, right?
Hmm.
In some cases, it can be function plus F4. So in my system, it is F4 only. So you need to see which way it is bringing or it is putting the dollar signs. If you are unable to do so, manually also you can type the dollar, and then you can close the bracket. It is okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I am pressing the enter. So it is returning me two. Two people are very unsatisfied for product one. Now I'm dragging it to the last cell. Now you can see the beauty, because what I did, I have fixed the criteria, right? So you can see when I'm coming in this next column, you can find A15 is as it is, right? Because it was freezed by me using the dollar sign. Is it clear?
Yes.
Fine. Now coming down, again you need to put a equal, type count if right? Select the range rather than selecting I'm typing. I think range I know now. B2 to B13.
B16. B16.
Selecting the selecting the unsatisfied and freezing it using the F4. Done?
Yes.
And then pressing enter. So count is coming as 0. That means no people is unsatisfied with product 1. And then you can drag it. Coming down, using again count if. So this way you can practice this function. You can give the range B2 to B13 and then select this. Then using the function F4 or only F4, you can freeze the condition, right? Now I think I'm changing. It is A18. So that way I have made the changes. And this is A19. Done. And this is E20. I think this will create problem. So do one thing, remove this function. Do not apply this here right now. Only these 3 I did, and I am dragging it till this. Fine.
Yes.
I hope everyone is okay with this. And for this, I think we can use only the count blank rather than doing this. I am just using the count blank like B2 to B30. That's all. Done? I hope it is done.
Yes.
Then total is by the sum function, and I'm selecting the range. Done? I hope it is done. Do I need to wait? Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
I think very satisfied. How many? 1, 2, 3, and 4. It is giving me only 2. Yes, the reason is the range is not correct here. B2 to B30. Yes. Fine. Just a minute, I'm just checking. Everything is fine. I don't know why it is coming. Okay, it is 0. That's why it is coming. Fine. Everyone, it is okay? Any doubt?
No.
Yeah, there is one more mistake I found somewhere. This is the mistake. It's B2. B13. Give me a second. In my case, I got some. Yeah, I think now it's correct. 12, 12, 12 is coming. Now it's correct. Fine. So now this way we have calculated the count for these different categories. Moving to the next sheet named as percent, right? Here we want to create a percent summary. So what I'm doing, I'm coming to this count, and from here I'm selecting this. You can see all the 5 categories count I selected here. I am pasting the same here. Done. Everyone, it is fine.
Yes.
And then I am dragging it till the last cell to get the total. So that now we can calculate the percent. Fine.
Yes.
Now, for percent, I think it is very simple to calculate percent if I want to get how many percent people are very unsatisfied. So how we will calculate the percent? I'm putting a equal this divided by the total, right? Which I have freezed. So you need to make it constant or freezed, right? So I'm freezing it so that I can drag it. It is fine. May I press enter? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now you can drag this till the last category. So we have got the percent for all the remaining categories, right? I hope no problem. Similarly, for the next column, we can calculate the percent. I think it is not a tough task, right? May I continue calculating this? Please confirm, friends.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. So this way we calculated the percents, right? Calculation is done. And then I'll get the total using the sum function and selecting the range. Please confirm me it is clear. May I
Yes.
proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
So may I proceed?
Yes.
Yes. Now we are going and talking about the report. So after this, I want to create a report where you can see the format deliberately I changed. In the percent sheet, you can see the products is listed in the column and the categories are listed in the rows. These are the categories which are in the row, right? But the products are in the column. But in the report sheet, I have kept the categories in the column and the products in the rows, right? So now what you need to do if I want to fill this particular sheet or the table. So I'll come to the percent sheet, right? And I'll copy the percent of all the 5 categories. You can see except the total, you need to select this and press Control C. Done? Done? Yes. May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
After copying this, come to the report. But you can see now this matrix is not the same size, means rows and number of columns are not same. Rows are 5, columns are 6, right? Here in this particular, but here when you will come here, the rows are 5, but columns are 6. So that is a problem. You cannot copy this data here. So what you need to do, come here, do put your select a blank cell, right, in your this particular sheet, and do the right click, and then you can find here there is 1 2 3 option is available, right? Means I do not want to copy the formula, I want to keep here only the values. So I am selecting this 1 2 3. It is fine. I hope it is fine.
Ma'am, can you explain it again?
From where?
Ma'am, this after copying.
After copying, do a right click. In the paste special, you need to select the second option, which is asking you to keep the values only. Because if you will copy and paste directly, it will create or give you the error, because you are copying a formula from the previous sheet, right? So that way you cannot copy. The references will change, right? So that is why you need to only copy the values here firstly. It is fine.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Fine. After this, after copying this, now again I'm copying this particular whatever I have pasted here. I'm copying this and coming in the table in the first cell, which is the combination of very unsatisfied and the product one. Again, I'm doing a right click, and this time I'm using the transpose option. I hope it is fine. Fourth option in the paste special, the transpose one. Done? Yes. Any confirmations? Yes, friends, say something. So I'm using this transpose option. This I did. Now you can come down and you can delete this. Now it is of no use. You can delete this. And then I'm coming in this table. I'm keeping the boundary of my table. And then in the number section of the home tab is this. In this number section, you need to use this percent. Right. So once you are using the percent, your data will be in the percent form. So if you want to cross check, you can cross check from your percent that whether we are getting the correct percentage in the combination of the categories and the product, right? So this is what you can do using this. So this way we have created a report which is clearly saying that the 18% of the people are very unsatisfied with product one. There is no person who is unsatisfied. 18% are neutral about the product one. 27% are satisfied, and 36% are percent people are very satisfied from the product one. So this is the way of expressing your data. So this is the one thing I expressed or explaining. I hope till here I'm clear. Please say something if you people are giving yes.
Yes, ma'am. We are clear with the theme.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So now you need to move to the next sheet, which is the sheet 5, right? There, I'll do one thing. You can delete these numbers which are written here in the sheet 5, like, right? So I did the same. Coming in the first sheet missing value, I'm copying my data for all the 6 categories, right? Control C I did. Coming in the sheet 5, and I'm pasting the same. Why I did this? Because I want to explain you now how to code your data. So we will understand now coding of the data. Fine? Done? I think you need to speak. I have shared my screen, so I cannot see any expressions if you are giving through your emojis and all.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Now you need to select your table from these response. Means for all the responses you need to select here from very satisfied till the last cell, which is blank one, right? This is you need to select first. Now press Control F from your keyboard to get the find and replace. And I'm also selecting the replace here. Now I'm typing very satisfied, which I want to replace by 5. Done. Done.
Yes, ma'am.
You can click on the replace all. So 17 replacements were done. Now I am replacing very unsatisfied, right, by 1. And I'm clicking on replace all. So 11 replacements were made. Then I am typing unsatisfied. I want to replace this by 2. Then click on replace all. 4 replacements were done. Now I'm making it satisfied. You need to replace this by 4 and then click on replace all. Lastly, the neutral. This should be replaced by 3 and then replace all. So 11 replacements were done. So this way coding can be performed. It is okay. I hope, may I proceed?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Fine. So now we will talk about the descriptive statistics using Excel. So descriptive statistics means when you have cleaned your data, whatever data you have collected, you have made all type of cleaning of your data. And then the first thing which you are performing on your data is known as descriptive statistics. This statistics can help you to get the summary of your data, because usually the data size is large, 100, 200, sometimes it is 1000 something. So that way, looking at the variable, looking at the data, you cannot understand anything. You cannot understand anything when you are looking at your data, right? So that way you need to summarize your data if you want to get understanding or the better insights from your data, right? So you need to use certain methods like measures of central tendency, measures of dispersion, measures of distribution, or also you can use graphical methods. So that way you can summarize your data using these methods, right? So when I talk about measures of central tendency, here comes under this is mean, median, mode. In the dispersion, generally we are calculating the standard deviation, right, or variance. And then in the distribution, we are calculating skewness and kurtosis. Apart from that, if you want to get minimum value of your data, maximum value of your data, you want to count how many values are available in your data, if you want to sum, etc. So these are the various parameters which you can use to summarize your data, right? In Excel, as I said, you are having the functions facility available. Using functions, you can calculate them, right? So suppose I want to get the mean of, suppose income variable, I think you can see here, right? So I want to get the mean income. So you need to use the function called average. And then you need to give the range of the income and you can close the bracket. I hope it is simple. May I press enter?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is giving you the average or mean income. For median, which is generally the most middle point of your data, and it is dividing your data into the two equal parts, right? So again, I'm using the function named as median, and I'm giving the range of my data. And once you are pressing the enter, it will return you the median value. So I hope I can enter.
Yes, ma'am.
So the median income is 28,500. Mode meaning is most repetitive value, right? So in the range, I need to check whether any of the income is coming or having the highest frequency. So I am giving the range in the mode function and pressing enter. So it is returning me 20,000 is the most occurred income in the range, right? To see the variation in the data, we are using generally standard deviation and the variance. Standard deviation, we are using the function STDEV. In the range I2 to I13, I hope I can press enter.
Yes, ma'am.
Then for variance, the function is VAR, and I think I2 to I13 we need to pass, and I'm pressing enter. So it is returning me the variance of the or variance in the income. Skewness function is SKEW only. This is the range of my data. I am pressing the enter. So this is coming negative. Skewness is nothing but it's asymmetry, study of asymmetry in the data. So whether your data is symmetrical to mean or not, using the skewness you can understand. So this is coming negative, so that way you can see your data is negatively skewed data, right? For kurtosis, KURT you can use, and you can give the range of your data. KURT, KURT, KURT function you need to use to get the kurtosis value. And then you can press enter. Kurtosis is one of the important parameter when we talk about normal distribution. In the normal distribution, when we talk about the bell-shaped curve, so whether the curve shape is good or not means whether it is the kurtosis is the study of the peakness of your sharpness of your curve. Whether the curve is sharp, very sharp, or it is okay, or it is very flatter, something like that. If you want to study this, you are using the kurtosis. So kurtosis can be also positive and negative. Positive kurtosis is known as leptokurtic, and negative kurtosis is known as platykurtic. So here you can find we are getting the negative value for the income. So we can say income is platykurtic. It means it's flatter, right? Minimum function is MIN only. So 18,000 is the minimum income in the data. And for max, again, I'm using the function called MAX. So the maximum income is 36,000. I want to count how many of the observations are there in my data. So I can use the count function. It is returning me 12. And if I want to get the total of the income, you can use the I2, the function called sum. So this way, this is the descriptive statistics. Looking at this, you can understand what your data is all about, whether your data is normally distributed or not, what is the mean, what is the median, etc. of your data. Is it okay? Clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
So one last thing I'll explain you, which is very important from the point of view of the Excel, which is if you want to perform higher level of the, means if you want to perform inferential statistics. Inferential statistics meaning is if you want to go for the hypothesis testing using the Excel. So here I think using few of the functions like t.test, etc. functions are available. But still, if you want to perform ANOVA, or if you want to perform regression, etc., that you cannot directly do in Excel. For that, you need to use one add-ins in your Excel sheet. So now I'll explain you how to add that add-ins in your Excel, right? So for adding this, I hope everyone is ready and listening to me. I think so that I can explain you how to add it. May I start explaining you?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So you
Yes,
need
ma'am.
to, yeah. So you need to go to the file tab or file menu. there you can find the options is available, right? So I hope everyone has located file. Those who are performing, those who are not performing, want to use Excel for the analysis, they can note down the steps of adding the add-ins, right? So after file, you need to select the options. In the options, you need to go to the add-ins. So you need to select this add-ins. In the add-ins option, you need to go at the bottom. There you can find manage Excel add-ins, and there is one button available with the name go. You need to click on this button go. And then you can find add-ins. The very first option is coming as analysis tool pack. This checkbox you need to select and you need to click on OK button. Is it fine, everyone?
No, ma'am. Please repeat.
Options.
No, 5.
File, options, add-ins, then go.
Yes.
Then check the first checkbox and click on OK. Done?
Yes.
After that, now you need to see where this add-ins is added in your Excel. So for that, you need to go to the data tab. There you can find at the extreme right, data analysis is available. This is nothing but this is the add-ins we have added just, right? You can click on this. It will show you the range of statistical tests which you can perform in Excel. So you can find ANOVA is available, correlation covariance, descriptive statistics, exponential smoothing, F-test, Fourier analysis, histogram, moving average, etc. You can see, scroll till the last and you can find the variety of the tests which you can perform in Excel. So firstly, if I talk about descriptive statistics, because I think you have seen we using the functions, we have performed or we have got the descriptive statistics. But using this descriptive statistics option in few seconds only, you do not need to use these functions. You do not need to mug up the function's name. You can only select the range and it will give you the answer, right? So we'll get this using this. So I'm using this descriptive statistics option and clicking on OK button. So once you will click, the dialog box will appear like this. So I hope it is clear. May I explain you this? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
So may I start explaining you using of this descriptive statistics dialog box?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now you can see in this dialog box, it is firstly asking you the range of your data. For that, you want to get the descriptive statistics. So I want to get the descriptive statistics for my income variable. So I selected it from I1 to I13, right? Next option is, it is asking you your data is grouped by column or row. So I think you can see data is in the column only, and it is a by default option. So we'll go with the by default option. Then I selected my data, including the label of my column. The heading I have selected, right? So I'm checking this box, labels. Done? Everyone, it is fine? Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Then, yes. Thank you. So then in the output options, I'm selecting the first option because there is variety. Whether you want to get your output in the same sheet, in the other worksheet, or in the new workbook. So up to you, wherever you want. I'll go with the first option. And then I need to select, then I need to come in this particular box. You need to click on this box now. And then I'm selecting a blank cell of my sheet because I'm generating my output in the same sheet, right? So I selected this. And then you need to select the summary statistics option. This is what you need to do. Done? Fine, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you need to press on OK button. So you can see in a second, we are getting the values, and then you can compare. Almost every value which you have calculated is giving here, is coming here, right? And with the same figures, you are getting the values, right? So this way, in few seconds, you can get the descriptive statistics using this add-ins. You do not need to mug up the functions for getting these variety of measures of the descriptive statistics. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, according to
Yes,
your data, you can perform the various other tests like the t-test, ANOVA, etc. using the add-ins option, which I have showed you. Using this, now you can explore more in the Excel that how you can perform these tests using Excel or using add-ins option, right? So friends, I'll summarize my session by saying this. Excel is a very easy statistical tool. Means using Excel, it is not like we can perform our routine tasks, but we can also perform the statistical analysis if we are having a good knowledge about the functions, if we are knowing how to use add-ins. So that way it is making your research journey little easier. But there is a limitation in Excel. The limitation is in terms of the types of statistical tests available in the add-ins. Only those tests you can perform in Excel, right? So that is a kind of what I can say, limitation of the Excel. So that is why people are going for some other softwares and they're using the advanced softwares for this purpose, right? So this is all I think from my side for this session. If you are having any queries, queries are most welcome. You please ask, or else we can wind up the session for the day.
Ma'am, regarding t-test also we can do it here, but how to give that number paired, unpaired? It says about 1, 2, like how to give that number?
Number means?
Like when we go, we do calculation in t-test.
Hmm.
They are asking if it is paired, in that condition it comes, make it 1, 2, like how to identify this paired test and unpaired test means what?
I think you are asking about how to identify or how to apply in Excel. Question is not clear.
How to apply it there in Excel?
How to apply? I mean, I think you can go here. You can find there is option available. This t-test pair two samples. So according to your data, you need to only give the ranges. You can select this. You need to give the range. Before and after range you can provide here, and then you can select the option which is given here. You can press on OK. It will generate the output for you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
Which other software we can use for analysis?
There are multiple softwares available nowadays, ma'am. I think yes, tomorrow we are going to see the next software, which is SPSS. Tomorrow also, I think I need to take one more session on SPSS. So tomorrow I'll explain you how you can use SPSS. Apart from that, you can use programming languages like Python. You can use R. There is a Stata, MATLAB. Multiple softwares available nowadays. I think one FTP I have taken on Jamovi also, which is a free open source software. So up to you in which software you are comfortable, which is easily available to you. So many softwares nowadays available, man. Up to you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So any other questions? No questions?
Ma'am, are the all software have their own limitation?
Sorry?
Are all the software have their own limitation? I mean, can we just rely on one software to just perform our those statistical tasks for research?
Sir, I'm not getting your question. Can anyone help me to understand that question?
What I'm saying is, suppose I just go with SPSS for analysis. So can I just rely on that particular software for the entire research work?
Are you saying, can you get a software? This is what you are asking me?
No, ma'am.
Then? Using a software, this is what you are asking. Using a software, you can complete your research work. This is what you are saying.
Yes, ma'am. With particular software, or we need to
I think
install?
SPSS is sufficient. I think using SPSS, many things you can perform, sir. SPSS is sufficient in itself. Many things you can perform. Similarly, Jamovi is available. Using Jamovi also you can perform many things. Generally, which we are using in terms of research. So everything I think you can perform using Jamovi or SPSS. If you're comfortable in programming languages, you can go for Python or R also. So these are very rich sources for doing the research. Depending upon in which field you are doing your research, whether it is the management side, means or social science side, or whatever side you are using. So there are packages available. According to the packages, you can use those packages to perform analysis. So up to you in which you are comfortable. Excel is having certain limitations, but apart from that, as you are saying, SPSS, etc., that you can use. One software is enough for complete your research study.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Any other questions? No more questions? Okay, fine. So I think we are done for the day. Tomorrow we are meeting for the next sessions. Nikita ma'am, are you there? I'm done with the
Yes,
session.
ma'am, I am here. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful and informative session. And hope tomorrow will also be the same informative and wonderful session. Thank you for spending your time here, ma'am, on RFI's platform. Thanks to all the participants for showing your interest and being cooperative. Thank you once again, all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So may I leave, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you,
Meet
ma'am.
tomorrow. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Suruchi ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.